Hey there, and welcome to GamePoints episode 116. That's
Damn.
not true. It's 117. I just forgot to change the title card there.
That's okay. I've been forgetting to fix the date all week, so you're fine.
We are back from our long 3-week vacation. 2 weeks, really, but it's been 3 weeks since we actually streamed anything, and I hope you guys had a good Christmas, Merry New Year, and whatever you happen to celebrate. News is still kind of a light side of things, David. We have some controversy over at IGN. We have MadCatz back from the dead. We have a few rumors from Nintendo I want to touch on. But before we get into any of that, did you have yourself a good Christmas?
Yeah, pretty nice.
Did you get anything nifty that you want to share?
Oh, like this fancy new microphone? Wah, wah, wah.
With any luck, David's audio should be vastly improved from here on out, fortunately. So
Maybe.
yeah, this is GamePoints episode 117. As always, we do stream Monday live at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here at Twitch TV/GamePoints. And if you happen to be watching us live, please feel free to join in the chat. This is a conversational podcast, and we try to interact with you whenever we can. Man, I have been gone for 3 weeks, and I'm all kinds of fucked up.
Like, speaking of that, did you finish any games while we weren't doing this?
I started a few, but I don't think I've actually finished anything. I've started Divinity Original Sin 2, finally.
That's a damn good game.
It is. I'm only about an hour and a half into it. I got off the boat.
Nice.
That's where I'm at.
When the beta launched, there wasn't even a boat.
That skeleton dude is badass, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Fen, I think his name is.
Fane.
Let's see, what else? Started up Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Haven't even come close to finishing that yet. Very long. What about you, David?
So the only reason I brought it up is I actually scratched something off of my very, very long backlog. I finally finished the campaign for Titanfall 2.
I'm told that's a really good campaign, actually. It's on my list of stuff to get to eventually, but man.
It's pretty entertaining. I can let you borrow it. It only takes a couple hours. It's not the longest thing in the world. I don't know, it feels like an old school Call of Duty campaign. It's just interesting enough to make you keep playing. It doesn't like break the mold or anything, but it's good.
Lots of explosions and set pieces, I'm assuming, but nothing too deep.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a robot in it, so already I like it better than most storylines.
Fair enough. News is still kind of sporadic, by the way. We haven't fully gotten back into the swing of things yet. We do have CES going on right now, and you figure a bunch of release dates will start coming out soon for the early stuff in spring of 2018. But we do have a few things we want to go over first, and the first news topic is something that kind of speaks near and dear to David's heart. Why don't you go ahead and lead us off there?
Well, I've been talking quite frequently about how Monster Hunter World is coming out. It actually comes out this month on the 26th for PC or for PS4 and Xbox. They're actually doing another beta again on I think the 20th to the 23rd. You can double check me on that. For PS4, you don't have to have Plus to play it. You can also play online with friends without Plus. That's cool. And then the game's going to come out, a week later. But recently on the Monster Hunter Twitter, it was actually posted that in a development update that Monster Hunter World is currently being optimized for PC and is planned for an autumn 2018 release.
Yep. So,
which is the most news we've gotten about a release date for PC.
Correct.
Everyone kind of assumed it would be at least a couple months later. I don't think everyone was expecting 9 months later.
Yeah, that's a bit of a shame, right? I thought it was going to be like a month, maybe tops, but 9 months down the road is a very long time. I guess what this means for you, David...
I'm actually very hopeful for that, because games that take a long time to come on PC are normally not rushed, terrible ports. And it's very important to me that Monster Hunter World plays amazingly everywhere it launches.
I agree.
So if it takes them 9 months to build it from the ground up for PC and we get a game that's completely playable, has a working party system, doesn't have bugs, runs at 60 FPS, looks really damn good, I'm okay with it.
Is this a game that you're going to be buying twice?
More than likely, yeah.
All right.
I have people playing everywhere, so...
Sounds good. I might actually have to pick... I know that I saw a bit of the demo when I was last with you. The game looks beautiful. I might actually have to pick this one up myself, and I've never really been a Monster Hunter fan, so I'm kind of excited for it. Just to give you accurate information, the third open beta is going to be held from January 19th till January 22nd. And the preload for that beta client will be on January 18th at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Or if you downloaded the client in one of the previous beta periods, you can just keep launching that one. I worked for the last one again, so.
Okay. I'm not seeing anything here about that, but I can't see why that wouldn't be the case.
I just know I downloaded the first beta. When the second beta hit, I didn't have to re-download anything. I just launched the same client and it worked. They basically turned it back on and added more content.
Cool. Looking forward to actually trying that one out myself.
Mm-hmm.
Next story, as we move on to this very sparse few weeks of news and games, we have kind of a bit of a fucked up one. This one comes from Kotaku via Kotaku by Jason Schreier. While we were gone last week, IGN fired its editor-in-chief over alleged misconduct. IGN apparently, let me take you back in the Wayback Machine a couple months ago. Former IGN staffer by the name of Kelly Plagge used to work at IGN. She now works over at GameStop. Quit the company, went over to GameStop, and came out during the Me Too campaign over Twitter and said, "Hey, someone harassed me at IGN. His name was Vincent Anito. I mentioned this to my boss, myself, and one other person, and my boss kind of just brushed off the concerns. She was very public about it on Twitter, said, hey, this happened. Vince came out and said, he didn't deny it, but he also didn't admit to it either. He's like, apparently there was a misunderstanding between the two. Long story short, it was a really nasty situation, but neither of those two people were working there anymore by the time all that broke. However, her boss, turns out, was the editor-in-chief, Steve Butts, and it sounds like IGN benched him during allegations made against him during a meeting. Going from the article right here. IGN initiated an investigation into alleged misconduct involving Steve Butts. As a result of the investigation, the company has appropriately determined to part ways with Mr. Butts, said IGN General Manager Mitch Galbraith in a statement to Kotaku this afternoon. This news comes 2 months after former IGN employee Kelly Plagge accused her former coworker Vincent Anito of sexually harassing her and another woman. IGN's editorial staff had several meetings about what happened and eventually decided to put a statement committing to fix what was broke within the company's culture. During this time, a lot of people at IGN actually just refused to work. The Daily Fix, which is their kind of daily news show, didn't air for a day or two, and people were just like, until this gets fucking addressed, we are not working. During one of those meetings, someone accused Butts of harassment, according to a person who was in the room. The accuser did not share more details in the meeting, but IGN consequently began investigating what had happened. If you look back at Steve Butts' Twitter feed, he kind of goes radio silent roughly around the time these allegations were made. Sounds like he's been working at home for the past 2 months, and IGN terminated him at the first of the year.
Damn.
Yeah. Once again, disclosure. I know everyone involved tertiarily. I worked with them briefly, and we're not what I would consider friends. I don't speak with any of these people anymore, but they were coworkers of mine for a couple months, and none of this happened while I was there, so I can't attest to that fact. But fuck me, this is...
You might have just not noticed. Or
yeah, everyone's dates line up after my time there. But so I know we hear about this stuff in the news all the time, especially with what's been going on in Hollywood. That's what's kicked off the whole Me Too campaign. And this is just totally self-indulgent here. It holds something extra when you know the people involved.
I can see that. When you actually have like a personal, not really stake, but like I guess interest in it. Like you know these people, you kind of have an idea of what like their motivations or interests were because you've actually worked with them, maybe talked to them for a little bit.
Yeah, it's like I said, we're not friends or anything like that, but it hits a little bit closer to home.
To hear their like outside behavior and the things they've done to affect each other is probably kind of weird, I guess.
Right. So there are two things I want to mention about this article. One is that IGN says he was fired for alleged misconduct, not sexual harassment. He was accused of harassing someone in this all hands meeting that they had, but IGN apparently did not fire him over that. They fired him over the alleged misconduct, possibly in relation to how he handled the Vince Incidito Kelly Plagge incident, because according to Miss Plagge, I hope that's how you pronounce her name. I actually never think I heard her last name. According to Callie,
you're
Steve,
bad at this.
Yeah, I know. I'm horrible at this. But according to her, Steve Butts essentially said, I just want this to be over. Fucking deal with it. And he just said, kind of gave her the boys will be boys response.
Mm-hmm. He just didn't want to deal with it. Or he didn't want to acknowledge it.
I get the feeling that's what he was fired for. As opposed to actually like...
He just did nothing.
Yeah.
Less of that he did something and more that he ignored a problem that, for all intents and purposes, needed to actually have a solution be dealt with.
And from what I understand, once again, keep in mind, this all happened after I was there. Vince actually got promoted a month or two afterwards.
Dang.
So, yeah, bad news all around.
Well, they talk about games being a boys' club. That is definitely something I've heard. So, I don't know. The more stories and stuff like this that comes out, and the more people that get fired for misconduct or for not handling situations, hopefully the better the industry gets as a whole.
We'll see. I mean, there's always like the general concerns, right? You don't want witch hunts to start popping up. You hope that Steve Butts actually was fired for a legitimate reason and not just thrown under the bus. We don't know any of that. Considering that Mr. Butts hasn't said anything, I'm trying to be super professional using their last names, and it's just not working. Considering that Mr. Butts hasn't said anything publicly about this, makes me think that he might recognize he fucked up. But that's just speaking from my personal experience. For example, if I was railroaded out for something I didn't do, I'd be extremely vocal about it.
Also, yeah, I was going to say, if you go on like a work hiatus, you're no longer coming to the office, and you go radio silent via Twitter, and you're someone who posts fairly regularly because you're in games journalism, that's pretty telling.
Yeah. But yeah, that's that.
Either something's up, or he knows he fucked up, or whatever.
That's that.
Yeah.
Look at the articles, look at everyone involved, listen to what they're saying. Don't trust just one source. But yeah, it's a shitty situation.
Yep. Well, in completely unrelated news, I do think we mentioned that CES has started this week. That's the Consumer Electronics Show.
Correct, out in Vegas.
Yeah, and it's in Las Vegas. And a kind of strange occurrence happened. Back in 2017, the gaming peripheral company MadCatz, who you've probably known of forever, disappeared. You know, they filed for bankruptcy. They partnered with Harmonix for Rock Band 4. It didn't do as well as they needed it to, and they were just gone. After 3 decades of existence, turns out no one really has that little brother's friend that wants to play with this super shitty EX Turbo controller anymore.
It's not even that. I mean, I think we all had our parents buy us at one time because we're like, we need a memory card, and they're like $30. Or you can get this cheap generic
for $9.
Yeah, which is supposed to hold 20 times as much memory, but what they didn't tell you is it fucking got corrupted every time you looked at it.
Yeah.
We all know MadCatz as that cheap-ass knockoff company.
Yeah. I mean, they tried to do more towards the end of their life cycle, but it just never really worked out. When Rock Band and Guitar Hero were doing well, they were making some decent money, but it just didn't work, and they disappeared. But all of a sudden, at CES, turns out MadCatz, the branding, the license, the name, was bought out by a Chinese company, and they're back. Now they're headquartered in Kowloon, Hong Kong, and operate under the legal name of MadCatz Global Limited. And this is a quote, "They are under new management with new ideas and new attitude."
I will say that this article we're reading from does come from Forbes.
It does come from Forbes. Now, while at CES, they've announced actually a whole bunch of stuff already. They have a new gaming mouse. They have a new gaming headset. They have a new gaming keyboard, all of which have weird Mad Catty names. So there's that.
Mad Catty names.
Well, let
me see if I can find something.
The mouse is supposedly fully customizable. It looks in every bit the way you imagine a gamer mouse to look.
It looks way too blocky for my taste.
It's also wireless. It has a rechargeable battery, but you charge it by putting it on the mouse pad that it comes with, and the mouse pad plugs into your computer via USB.
I like that.
So they didn't eliminate a cord, they just moved it, but it's still kind of interesting. Now, how well it tracks, how well it works, I have no idea. I'm not at CES. I'm here talking to you. I
think they fucking called it the RAT. The RAT, which sounds fucking horrible, especially if you name your company MadCatz.
Well, and there's also the Freak headphones are the ones I remember, but it's like a shortened version of the word frequency, not freak like freak on a leash.
Well, they acronym it here, so I don't know if it actually means anything or if they just thought putting periods
Probably
between
not.
every letter was cool.
They think it sounds cool. They are fresh from 1999 or 2001. and they are ready to bring you the gaming peripherals you desperately don't need. They also have a keyboard that they say has some kind of fancy key in it, but we have no idea what the switches are. We don't know if it's actually like a tactile keyboard or if it's, we don't know. I'm not sure. I'm sure people are playing with them at CES, and we'll probably find out more soon. We just know that all of a sudden these guys are back from the dead.
Yeah, and it's actually the employees that worked at MadCatz. As what happens so often with these companies, some investment firm will just buy the name and the rights to the hardware. But from what I understand, this new holding company is comprised of former MadCatz employees.
Really?
And not just CEOs, but the guys who are hands-on manufacturing of various keyboard, the guys who actually designed the shit.
Well, here's hoping they can make things that suck less.
Yeah, I feel like Rock Band 4 didn't get the shake it deserved.
That game's great.
I just feel that they put all their eggs in one basket, and that was a mistake. They pulled a THQ with the U-Draw, right?
Yeah.
Where if one game does so badly it tanks your company, you probably shouldn't have made that game, even if it was going to be great. It was a bad call. Anyways, while on the topic of CES, we have a couple of VR stories I want to hit up real quick. One is that the PSVR actually doing surprisingly well. This article comes from Silicon Era. Sony expects PlayStation VR's library to increase from 150 titles to 280 by the end of 2018. Now, the reason why I was surprised by this is because Sony has a history of going, well, this peripheral isn't doing as well as I liked, or the Vita isn't selling through extremely fast, so we're just going to drop all first-party support for it and slowly let it sunset into that good night. But from the article right here, it says that Sony Interactive Entertainment said in a statement to Nike, that's the Japanese stock market magazine, I believe, not the shoe brand, that it expects the current That it expects the current number of PlayStation VR titles to increase from 150 to 280 at the year end. According to Sony, this is an 80% increase from 150 titles to about 280 by the end of this year is now possible. That the number of PlayStation VR units... This is a garbage article.
This article's trashes, apparently.
I just skimmed through it. I didn't really but the way it's written, it's just... I'm stumbling over myself to get out. Long story short, a whole bunch of more PlayStation VR games are coming. And the fact that the PlayStation VR has sold up to 2 million units now has made it a little bit more appealing for people to hop into.
Yeah, 2 million is a decent base.
It is. When you have, I want to say, 40 million PlayStation 4s out there, it's still a very small market. And you're not going to see anything like Call of Duty VR like that on there. Full campaign version of Call of Duty VR. Because you're still capped at, if you have a 100% attach rate at 2 million copies. Remember, Dead Space 3, a touted game, the game I always like to tout out using numbers like this. EA said it needed 5 million to be successful. So you need 2.5 times your install base just to make that game successful. That said, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say the other question really is how many like Vives and Rifts have sold?
I think both of those combined is less than 1 million.
It's very possible.
Let me look that up. Let me look that up real quick. Actually, I'll look it up in a second.
I've been trying to find it. I haven't found any hard numbers because I don't think they've been released, which normally means that it's not selling like gangbusters.
I think both those units combined is less than 1 million. But keep in mind, I heard that around 3 or 4 months ago, so I don't know if that number has been eclipsed since then.
Yeah, everything I know is that as of like last year, they'd only sold like 400,000 of them.
That I would not be surprised if that didn't stay kind of true.
I believe that was like the shipped number, not necessarily the in customers' homes number. So
right.
Who knows? I could be completely off base, but if they don't release the numbers, I can't tell you anymore. So
the one thing you have to be concerned about PSVR sticking around, though, is if you look at the top-selling PlayStation VR games in 2016 and you compare it to the list of PSVR games, the top-selling ones in 2017, the list is near identical.
Yeah,
5 of the top 10 are still on there, and it's the VR Playroom. It's nobody stops talking and we don't explode. It's all of your typical VR games, and none of this stuff has really shifted. That's a problem because that means there really aren't any
There's still no
bigger
killer app.
games. Yeah, there's still no killer app for it. I think the next big one that we have coming out for the PlayStation VR is The Inpatient, and that is the quasi prequel to Until Dawn,
We'll have to
which
wait and
takes
see.
place during the Insane Asylum. I think that comes out January 22nd, but I could be wrong on that. So yeah, Sony still seems to be supporting it. They're still talking about it. They actually had a showing at PSX, so this isn't going away. But I don't think...
And they're going to release 130 games for it this year.
But
or
how...
at least 130 games will be put on it. How many of them are shovelware?
Yeah.
I'd guess about 90%. Of the last 10%, how many were going to be first party or actually like AAA? Maybe one.
Well, there's some interesting stuff coming out. There is... Oh, god damn it. What's this called? You know that London...
Is it just a port of an existing game into VR?
No,
Because
the
that's
guys that
not a
did that
killer
London
app.
Heist game, you know what I'm talking about, the London Heist?
Yes.
They're
Yes, I do.
actually making a full-fledged game called Blood and Truth. That looks pretty
could be
amazing.
cool.
I want to say there is another, like, a tactical modern-day Call of Duty-esque game called, I want to say, like, Door Kickers or something stupid like that. That's coming out. You have Ace Combat 7, which is supposed to be fully enabled in VR. You have The Inpatient coming out soon. That's a Sony first-party game, I believe. You do have stuff coming. But I don't think any of it's lighting the world on fire. I know Farpoint was supposed to be the big PlayStation VR Sony first-person shooter, and it never really went anywhere. It was cool. People went, oh, okay, cool. I have to spend another, like, $40 on top to get that controller, though, with the $300 plate or $400 PSVR that I bought and the $300 PlayStation 4 that I bought. There's a lot of baggage with it.
That's fair.
But it's cool. I'm very satisfied with my purchase of it. It's just not... It's like a turtle, right? You kind of want it to hurry up and get somewhere, but it's not really doing that. But it is still going forward.
That's nice. Speaking of VR going forward, HTC VIVE announced that they're going to have a Pro VR headset. This was actually from the VIVE blog, but they have I think they unveiled it actually at CES, but it's the VIVE Pro. So it's a newer version of the VIVE headset. It's got higher resolution, improved audio, more comfort, all kinds of fun stuff. The screen has been updated to a dual OLED display with a resolution of 2880 by 1600, which is like a 78% increase.
That's combined, by the way. That's in both eyes. So you figure
Yes.
each eye is only getting
30-something percent.
each eye is getting 1440 by 800.
I don't know how it works. Math is hard. Anyway, it makes things a little sharper. In addition, it also has integrated headphones, which are supposed to have like a built-in amplifier. So hopefully it actually sounds good. You don't have to bring your old headphones to it. I'm also hoping you can just attach them and still use your own headphones. We'll see how that goes. There's dual microphones for noise cancellation and dual front-facing cameras. As before, it had one, so you had like that pass-through camera so you could see what the hell's going on in front of you. But this is more for alternate reality stuff or augmented reality where they can maybe incorporate the room you're in into the game. They're just kind of adding it. And they wanted to make a more premium version of what was already the most premium headset. In addition, they announced the most important possible piece in the VR puzzle, the VIVE wireless adapter.
Yes.
It's going to be the first part on the market to make a truly wireless VR headset. It works with both the regular Vive, which I think is important, and the Vive Pro. So the biggest problem I think with VR is the fact that you have to strap this giant thing to your head, and then you have cables just tying you to the room more or less, or tying you to your computer, and you got.
And that adds to the weight of that system by a lot.
I'm also worried about the fact that if I turn too fast, I might pull all the cables out of my computer, or like knock my PlayStation over, or whatever. That's not good. So the fact that they actually have a wireless adapter that will allow you to play and turn completely in a circle, for example, that's game changing.
Yeah, no, I agree. VR headsets do have two things holding them back outside of the cost, because it's very much an each thing. That's the resolution, and that is the wireless thing. To go back to PlayStation VR, I loved playing Resident Evil 7 in the VR headset, but it does not look nearly as crisp as it does just on a basic screen, because the PlayStation VR resolution takes a pretty nasty hit when you put that on there. So we need to have that technology improved upon. We need to get the better visuals, because you can't ask people to go from, especially if you're on the PC, you can't have people going from
like 4K 144 hertz to something that looks horrible.
Yeah. I was going to say 2K. 2K is kind of the standard now. 4K is your extreme side of things.
But the people that are going to be running VR at max can probably run 4K.
Yeah,
because again,
I agree.
A PC that can push good-looking VR is not one that really like maxes out at 1080.
Correct. So they need to make the screen at least comparable to a 2K standard. And I think that's why they announced that resolution at 2880 by 1600. That's kind of a con job, because that's combined. That means each eye is getting your 1440 by 1080, or by 800 rather.
Still improved.
It is improved, but it's a little bit of shady numbers. It's not as powerful as that number sounds, but it's still definitely improved. And the wireless thing, that headset gets fucking heavy over time, and having all those wires plugged into it, while it might not seem like it, does increase the weight of that device significantly, let alone the ability to just move around freely, especially with the Vive and the Oculus, which I'm assuming we'll have a wireless thing sooner or later. The Vive, though, has that full body motion, like it could tell when you're moving in the room. So this is just leading more to that. I wonder how long it's going to be before someone dies wearing one of these things because they tripped and like fell on a knife or something.
I guess people just leave knives like face up in the middle of their room.
Well, a
knife's
knife's the first thing
and wander around in this room filled with knives.
First of all, I know a lot of people who just have knives. Second of all, let's say the glass table in front of them or something.
Okay. Or they just walk out of their window and they happen to live on the 6th floor.
Yeah, just fall down and die, and that's it.
Who knows?
So that time is coming soon. I fully expect we'll get one of those deaths soon.
Sounds great. I'm glad that you're optimistic about the VR deaths.
I'm very optimistic about people dying. I am very bullish on. I'm not being a negative. I'm not. This isn't me saying. I guess people. I'm saying no. I'm very optimistic on my belief that someone is going to die. I believe that is going to happen.
You're a terrible person. Great job.
I don't know if optimistic's the right word I'm looking for here.
I highly disagree that that's the correct word to use. Oh, man.
I think I'm getting it confused with confident. It's like, you know what it is? I'm positive this death's going to happen, and I'm getting optimistic and positive in this connotation confused. Because they're technically the same thing, right? Optimism and positivity. But in the context I'm using them in, it's not right.
This guy's a dick. I summed it up.
Anyways, next topic, because this is just a hodgepodge of information that's happened over the past week.
Right.
Burnout Paradise is getting an HD remaster, but in Japan only.
Man,
this article is
tentative as shit. That's totally coming to the US. Don't even play.
The article via Gamatsu here says that Electronic Arts released Burnout Paradise HD Remaster, a tentative title, for PlayStation 4 in Japan on March 16th for 4,000 yen, roughly $40 here. The game is a high-definition remaster of the 2008 launched PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and PC open world racer. And you're right, David. This shit is going to be coming to the US. I can't see this not coming to the US.
Burnout Paradise is a damn good game, and I'm actually totally fine with this getting an HD remaster.
See, if I recall correctly...
Now, what's going to be funny is listening to the very 2008 soundtrack.
What was on it, out of curiosity?
I don't know. It's
50 Cent?
Probably. It's all like kind of pop, alt rock, and hip hop music, and then specifically Paradise City by Guns N' Roses.
Because of course, right?
Because of course.
You can't call it Burnout Paradise without that.
Exactly.
So, I'm in agreement. This is coming out of the United States. It's just a matter of when.
And my only worry is, what is EA going to do to it? Because I don't trust EA for shit right now.
Oh, I think it's just going to be a remaster. What I think this is...
But is it going to have everything in it? Is it going to have all the DLC add-on bullshit they added over the time?
Didn't think about that. For $40, it fucking better, but we'll see.
Because Paradise had a lot of extra bullshit they added over the course of that game.
What I think this is is I think this is EA kind of testing the waters a little bit, seeing what reaction is going to be to this game, to see if it's worth their time bringing Burnout back. If a lot of people buy Burnout...
Since they stole the Burnout crew for Need for Speed and then told them all to fuck off.
Fuck yeah, Criterion, is that what that company was?
Mm-hmm.
I get the vibe that this is them just throwing up a test balloon to see if Burnout can still sell, and if it does, we'll get a new Burnout, and if it doesn't, then the series will go dormant for another 5 years or so. We'll see how that shakes out. I think, in fact, that's going to be EA's bold prediction. Look back at EA's old catalog of stuff. I get the feeling we're going to start seeing a lot of remasters from them because, one, they're safe, and two, they're going to use them as trial balloons to see who wants to get.
Well, they also haven't saturated the world with a bunch of remasters yet.
I think that's going to change.
They're waiting.
I know, for example, they said that a Mass Effect remaster isn't on the books. That's a fucking no-brainer. I think that is on the books, and I think we're going to get that within the next year. I think we're going to get things like a Dead Space remaster. Only because what they want to do is to squeeze more money out of those games and see if they sell well enough to justify the cost of a Dead Space 4. I think we're going to start seeing all these EA trilogies whose fucking names escape me right now. I know there's more than just one or two. Coming out to see if it's worth bringing these franchises back. Because EA needs to do a lot of positive buzz. They need a lot of damage control right now, given the Star Wars Battlefront fiasco. And people love revisiting the old catalogs. They love remasters of their old games. It's an easy, cheap way, cheap in quotation marks, to get goodwill. So I think that they can kill two birds with one stone, gain some quick brownie points with the fans, and see if there's any interest in these older IPs.
Also, fuck new games. Let's just keep re-releasing all the old shit, because that is the time we live in. We'll get more to that once we get to new releases.
How many people bought Last of Us when it first came out? Then bought Last of Us Remastered on the PlayStation 4, and that game is not even...
I'm willing to bet that a lot of the people that bought the Last of Us Remastered on PS4 are the same people that bought Last of Us the first time.
That's what I'm getting at. And that game was not that old. I want to say there's maybe 4 years difference between those two releases, maybe even less.
Yeah, that one's probably the closest. But we'll get more. I mean, the other thing is that we've gotten some really weird, obscure, and kind of horrible games as remasters recently.
Crash Bandicoot was recent, and that actually did well in Europe, from what I understand. Sony also announced Medieval recently.
I'm thinking of, what was that other game? It was like Strike Force or some other dumb game. That was like a 2002 action shooter for Xbox or 360 that no one played then and no one's going to play now.
Oh, shit. Yeah. I know what you're talking about, and its name escapes me as well. But I think the most baffling one of them all is fucking Darksiders 2.
Yeah, I don't know
how that game just gets remastered over and over again. At least it feels like it might have only been remastered once, but doesn't Darksiders 2 feel like it's been remastered like 4 times by now?
I think it was Darksiders 2, and then it had like a definitive edition, and then it had a remastered edition. So I feel like it came out 3 times. I don't know.
I feel like that game's been out way more than 3 times.
It's
Anyways,
possible.
While on the topic of ports, David, we have a lot of scuttlebutt going on in the Nintendo side of things. And the rumor is that a new 3DS Zelda is coming, and that it's going to be a remake of Link's Awakening. Now, the information I have here is from the Twitter feed of Marcus Sellers. He's a known Nintendo insider. He's been right a lot, but he's been wrong a lot too. However, I doubt he's just making this shit up. There is some kind of evidence he's been seeing, or people have been talking to him about what's going on. And he says the following. Regards to the 3DS-inspired Link's Awakening game coming out this year, the team behind it is Grezio, who have handled many Zelda games for the 3DS. A prime example is The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask 3D. So what he is saying, and he has a couple tweets relating to this, is that not only does this Link's Awakening game exist, he mentions in another tweet that it's possibly open world, think Breath of the Wild, and that the team that has handled other Zelda ports to the 3DS is working on this one as well.
Isn't this the same guy that said the Dark Souls was going to get remastered for the Switch?
In fact, it says it right down there, yeah. So take what he says with a grain of salt. These are all rumors. Remember, a lot of people were saying, a lot of insiders, quote unquote, took a lot of shit for DMC5 being at PSX, and then that wasn't. But remember, plans change, stuff gets moved around, and the hot rumor on that is DMC5 got moved to E3 2018 because Sony wants to have that same feeling of E3 they had back in 2016 and 2015, which they really didn't have in 2017.
Because they just show the same stuff that they had already shown.
Yeah. So things change. As always with rumors, take it with a grain of salt. We don't know if this is going to be true or not. This sounds legit to me. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know if it's necessarily going to be open world, but a remaking of Link's Awakening, it's time for that, especially after they just did the remaster, reimagined, insert your word here, for Metroid 2 Samus Returns. Which it is a brand new game. That is not a port or even up-res port. That is a brand new game. So we'll see how that shakes out, and possibly even sooner than we might think, because there's also rumors of a Nintendo Direct happening this week.
Can I just get another Link to the Past sequel?
Yeah, that was a good game.
Yeah.
The 3DS Link to the Past one, I can't remember what it's called. Link Between Worlds. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, possible Nintendo Direct later this week. Nintendo's notorious for not telling people about this shit's happening until, like, the day before it happens. So we likely won't know until Wednesday if it's going to happen. But it would keep on pace with previous years where Nintendo holds a big Direct at the end of the year. Or at the start of the year, rather. My concern is that Nintendo kind of needs to do one of these real quick. Because they have nothing right now. We know Bayonetta 3 is coming and Metroid Prime 4 is coming, but what else does Nintendo have on deck at the moment?
Well, we'll find out, because I don't know. They got a lot of goodwill. The Switch is real damn good.
Switch is real good.
Switch is the fastest selling console of all time.
My only concern is I hope Nintendo didn't like blow their wad out the gate to try to make that the fastest selling console of all time, and now they just have nothing.
They got franchises they can turn to.
Yeah, but remember, that was the problem with the Wii U.
They can bring me a brand new F-Zero game.
That's not going to happen.
Shut up.
Sorry, man. F-Zero's dead. They have Mario Kart. They have Mario Kart.
Shut up. Just let me have this.
But we need stuff for 2018 from Nintendo, and we don't have any word on what they might be doing so far.
They could actually make a new damn Smash Brothers game and not just re-release an old one.
That's one of the rumors going on right now.
Hopefully fucking the old Smash Brothers games and get the hell out of Evo, because why do they have two?
The biggest rumor I'm hearing right now when it comes to Nintendo, specifically this upcoming Direct that may or may not happen, is an honest-to-God console Pokemon game. Not Pokemon Snap, not Pikachu's Adventure, like an actual console Pokemon game. Didn't they already say
that the last Pokemon was the last one to come out on 3DS? Like, period?
I don't know. They might have. I don't recall seeing that anywhere. But the time is right. We need Switch ideas for 2018. And we don't have any. We know Bayonetta 3, like I said, is March. That's right around the corner from what I hear. I think it's March. Could be wrong on that as well. But we need more games right now. And they kind of shot themselves in the foot with how stellar that first year is. Because now they've kind of set the expectation.
Or maybe they use that first year to be like, okay, here's what we can make. Here's how good the Switch can do. Here's our base, and now they're going to go third-party hunting and try and get some AAA games outside developed for the Switch.
That'd be an unforced error on their part. They need to keep that schedule pace up. Maybe not necessarily one great hit a month like they did for the first year Nintendo Switch, but they need to have something at least every...
They had one great hit a month?
Yeah.
I don't agree with that.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's think about it. Okay, so
they had some damn good games.
You had Zelda. You had Splatoon 2. You had ARMS. All three of those were big hits for Nintendo. They're all first-party Nintendo games as well.
I don't think ARMS was a hit.
I
don't think ARMS was even a little bit of a hit. I think there's like 6 people that play ARMS. Just saying. I could be wrong, but
I'll have to double check that. But they were all
like gangbusters.
They were all Nintendo first party. At the very least, Nintendo had a first party game every month last year. It was
All right.
Zelda, Splatoon 2, ARMS, Mario Kart, Xenoblade, Mario Odyssey. That's 6. There's a couple I'm missing off the top of my head. But every month there was like a big one.
I just don't think that's right. But I could be wrong.
They need to keep that momentum until 2018, and just suddenly not have anything slated for this year so far, other than, like I said, Bayonetta 3 and
well, at some point
Metroid
they'll
4?
get Monster Hunter XX.
Okay, give us a date. Tell us when.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Like we need information going into it. They've set the bar very high, and if they
Blaster
don't hit
Master
that
Zero
bar,
any good?
no.
How about New Frontier Days Founding Pioneers?
Never even heard of it.
How about Mighty Gunvolt Burst? How about Physical Contact Speed?
What the hell are you talking about? What are you reading
Striker
here?
Gunvolt. I'm reading actual games that were Switch exclusive released per month for the first year of the Switch. I agree that it's awesome, and it's a real good thing. But let's not say that it's anything more than Zelda, Mario Kart, and Odyssey.
Okay, I'm looking this up. I'm going to look this up real quick.
I'm actively looking at a list, man. We can fight about it later. While you're doing that and trying to counter a point that I made that is most excellent, not knocking the Switch. It's damn good, and it actually only needs 2 games to be damn good. That's not wrong. Let's talk about all this new crap we're getting this week. Well, he tries to prove me wrong. And by new crap, I specifically mean new releases that are actually just re-releases of old game, because it's the beginning of the year. No one puts any brand new AAA stuff in the first week of January. So this is what we get. Coming out this week, we have Plox Neon on PS4 and Steam. It's a weird kind of puzzle indie game where it looks part like Tron Life Cycles mixed with Arachnoid. Like you drive around on these puzzle grids and try and block off enemies and then kill the enemies. I don't know. It's colorful. It's got interesting sounding music. Yeah, there you go. Also coming out, Albert and Otto: The Adventure Begins for Xbox One. This game actually looks kind of interesting. It's a platform, like side-scrolling game set in 1939 Germany, where you're in search of a little girl with rabbit ears, and you have a bunny you bring with you and use it to solve puzzles. So you can like leave the bunny behind and have it stand on a platform so that you can jump, or you can throw the bunny to use as wolf bait so that wolves will come and get killed by the spike trap that you're trying to avoid. Or like, it's weird. You use a bunny to solve puzzles on a platformer. Kind of interesting. We have Space Hulk Ascension coming out for Xbox One. That is the PC game that came out in 2014. It's Space Hulk, the tabletop game, but in full 3D. Have fun with that. You play as a Space Marine. It's set in the 40K universe. You go through a giant Space Hulk, which is basically like a crashed spaceship, more or less, and you fight spooky-ass monsters.
So think the movie Aliens, but instead of having colonial marines, you have a bunch of people wearing medieval armor. And futuristic guns attached to that medieval armor.
That's close enough. Fury is actually coming out this week for Switch. This is another port. It originally came out in 2016, I think, on PlayStation and Steam, possibly Xbox. It's a very action-oriented, very stylish game that's more or less a boss rush. You've played it, right?
Yes, I love Fury. It is a boss... Sorry, I'm looking up Nintendo Switch titles here.
Thanks.
Yeah, Fury is a boss rush. Fantastic electronic synth soundtrack to it. Very cool art style. Reminds me a little bit of a futuristic take of Afro Samurai.
I think it looks like Gravity Rush. But there you go. More ports. Super Meat Boy is hitting the Switch. Now, I think this is a great game for the Switch because Super Meat Boy is damn fun. One of the best things about it is that it's a very difficult platformer, and the controls on it have always been just so damn good. That's why it works. That's why it can be a difficult game and not be frustrating, because if you die, it's because you screwed up or you're just not quite good enough yet. But
and it immediately gets you back into the action too. There's no like quick load or anything.
There's no load times. There's no anything. You're just as soon as you die, you hit a button and you start right back at the beginning of the level, which means you can just keep running it, and you just get better.
There are some insane players of this game out there, by the way.
Absolutely. You can do some crazy stuff in there. And if you want 100% it, you're going to have to get pretty good.
Yep.
Also getting switched over to the Switch this week is Escapist 2, which is a co-op break out of prison game. It's I don't even know what the art style is. It's like this 2D old school like Super Nintendo-esque art style, and
definitely retro.
It's kind of
has a retro look to it.
It's kind of a multiplayer puzzle game. You get thrown into different prisons, and you guys have to find your ways out. I think you can also play it solo, but mostly it's meant to be like a fun kind of co-op game. Flying Tiger, Shadows Over China hits Xbox One this week. That came out on Steam in May. Tiger. It's got mixed reviews on Steam. It's probably not the greatest game in the world, but it takes place in World War II. You fly World War II airplanes, and you shoot down the Japanese. That's what that is. I know it's Shadows Over China, but it's the American forces that were fighting against the Japanese forces to help save their Chinese allies.
All right, I was going to say history lesson. China was fighting against Japan, and the U.S. backed them heavily during World War II.
Dude. And finally, coming out for Switch, Brawl, but not Smash Brothers, just a game called Brawl in all caps. This is the weirdest game on the list, I think, because it looks like it's only on Switch as far as I can tell. I don't see it being released anywhere else as far as I know. And looking at the art style and the gameplay, the closest thing I can describe it as is Bomberman meets Twisted Metal.
Let me take a look here.
It looks like you have levels laid up Bomberman style, and you're trying to blow people up, but then it's got all these crazy characters and kind of like a more dark, seedy kind of art style. As you play
the cover alone reminds me a lot of that like 90s spiral notebook drawn kind of metal cover. Think what Drawn to Death was trying to do. That kind of reminds me, just on the cover. By no means do I know anything about the game itself.
Yeah, Drawn to Death's real bad though.
Yeah, it is. Also on PST, it's also on PlayStation 4 and PC.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, let me. It came out.
I
shit.
specifically looked at it on Nintendo's website.
It came out April 24th, 2015.
Oh damn!
So here's a 2.5-year-old port. The PlayStation 4 version of it got a 62 on Metacritic.
Someone go pull our list from 2.5, or pull our video from 2.5 years ago and see if
this is. Long story short, this is what I'm worried about the Switch, though. Right? They had a good first year. One of them, I will argue with you on this point later, but I say that they had one of the best launch years in gaming history.
They absolutely did. I do not disagree with that. I'm just saying that the hits didn't necessarily come like you thought they did. It's that they had a constant stream of fairly decent games and some outrageously good ones.
Yes.
More so than any other console release.
But it's just a port factory at this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, what else is releasing right now? There's nothing else really releasing right now, so I can't fault them for that. But at least we know what's coming out on, say, PlayStation 4. We know they have God of War coming. We know they have the Spider-Man game coming. We don't really know what Xbox has other than Crackdown 3, or Sea of Thieves. Xbox also has Sea of Thieves coming out.
Well, the only things we know coming out for Switch are, like, really small, weird games and a whole bunch of mobile game ports, which that's the thing that's bothering me. I get that there's a bunch of games that are being switched over, either from PC or from like the Indie Arcade or from PSN or whatever. But when you start taking a bunch of phone games and then charging me money for it, and then don't even take out the microtransaction elements, what the fuck is that? You guys even have any sort of curation system? Because that shouldn't happen.
I am super concerned at the direction the Switch is going right now, because it can easily turn into another Wii shovelware system, where the Wii, when it first came out, a lot of cool stuff, and then it became, a garbage shovelware system. And we're starting to kind of see the seeds of that getting planted right now.
They're getting Payday 2 next month.
Okay, cool. New. It's another port.
Bayonetta and Bayonetta 2. They're getting Kentucky Route Zero.
I am down for Bayonetta and Bayonetta 2. That's awesome. Another
They're getting
port.
Steep. They're getting the Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection. Kirby Star Allies.
Port. No, wait. Kirby Star Allies might actually be new.
Project Octopath Traveler.
Okay, that's
some
new,
point.
and I have an interest in that game. I get the feeling it's going to be a saga game.
Runner 3, Wolfenstein 2, Siberia 3,
Port.
Shovel Knight, an unannounced Yoshi title.
Okay, give me a name, give me some gameplay, give me a date.
That's what I'm saying. There's just not. We don't know a lot. We need to know more.
Yeah, Nintendo needs to have a big direct saying, this is what 2018 looks like. Here's some games coming out. Give us some details on a Pokemon game if that's on deck. Give us some details about Bayonetta 3. Let us know more about Metroid Prime 4. And give us a virtual console release date with what's going to be on there.
Or even partially talk about it.
Yeah.
Or here's another idea. Make it so it actually has a bona fide, real online infrastructure.
Yeah, that was supposed to get rolled out back in October or something like that, wasn't it?
I'm just saying, using your goddamn phone to not use Discord and use some much shittier app is not the proper way to do this.
No, that's one thing. I'm talking about actual Nintendo's online service they're charging money for.
There are 3DS tiles with online multiplayer and voice chat. How the fuck can you not figure this out?
Well, that's one of the reasons why the Switch sold for so cheap. And so cheap, in quotes, I understand $300 can be a lot of money to drop. But compared to what it could have been, it's cheap.
While it's super rad, it is fairly featureless.
Yes. But anyways, my once again, to reiterate my entire point, we don't know what Nintendo's doing in 2018. And they need for that to change. They need to give us a reason to have the Switch in 2018. 2017 was cool. A lot of great games for it. But not to sound like a dick, not to sound like that entire gamer, but Nintendo, what you doing for me this year? I appreciate what you did for me last year. You drugged your name back from the depths of the earth with me. I hated Nintendo there for a hot minute. I'm in love with them again. But they need to keep that forward momentum going, or else they're going to stagnate and turn into another port factory like Wii was. And I'm kind of hoping the rumors of this Nintendo Direct on Thursday pan out, or at the very least give us one before the end of January so you can tell us what is coming.
We'll see. We'll find out together.
Anyways, I think that's going to wrap things up. This has been GamePoints episode 117, despite the fact that the thing above me says 116. We do stream here live every Monday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here at twitch.tv/GamePoints. And if you happen to watch us live, feel free to join in the conversation. We try to interact with you whenever we can. If we can't watch us live, feel free to take a look at us on our YouTube page. Just type in GamePoints one word. We should pop right up there. Regardless of where you happen to be at and watching us at, follow us, like us, unlike us, send us messages, whatever you want. Just interact. This show is as much for you guys as much as for me and David here. You can follow the show on Twitter at GamePoints PC. You can follow myself at CapitalistPig21, and you can follow David Smith over there at _Satori. Without further ado, this has been GamePoints episode 117, and until next week, we're out of here.